happy video. Like the topic is not joyous and happy. I mean, you'll see. So I'm here to tell you, and I want to give you the truth, that the debt crisis will destroy the United States of America. And the newest data shows, and it confirms, that the situation is getting worse. And not only is the situation getting worse, it's degrading at an accelerated rate. And I will show you. In February, the government was predicting that the federal government would overspend by $1.69 trillion this year in 2024, which means that the federal government would have to borrow an additional $1.69 trillion. So this is coming from the Congressional Budget Office, the CBO. Now, the news report by the CBO was issued in June, and they updated their projections. So the CBO is now projecting that they're going to overspend by $1.9 trillion, which is more than $200 billion more than they thought about 4 months ago. As you can see, the federal government will collect $4.9 trillion in taxes this year, and they will spend $6.8 trillion, which is a deficit of $1.9 trillion, which means that they'll have to borrow that amount this year. The CBO says that one of the largest reasons for the change in their estimates is because of the taxpayer money that we need to give to Ukraine, Israel, and countries in the Indo-Pacific. Additionally, more money needs to be spent than originally thought for $70 billion of taxpayer money to the banking sector for the FDIC to rescue failing banks. So in other words, our taxpayer money to bail out the banks again. And over $100 billion more than expected for targeted student loan forgiveness. So listen, if the government is going to tax us more, then we should at least, at a bare minimum, receive more services or goods in exchange. But that's not happening because our taxpayer money is going to other countries, it's going to the banks, and it's going to pay for other people's student loans. So honestly, I'm fed up with this, but I'll tell you this, we have bigger issues. The bigger issue is that our government is driving our country deeper into national debt, and it will destroy our country. So let me show you how bad the situation is right now. Our federal government is in debt today for over $34 trillion. The government owes that money to other countries, institutions, investors, etc. Now the government borrowed this money and they have to pay interest on this money that they borrowed. And the government now has a mountain of debt, and that's a problem because the interest payments are getting very expensive. So this year in 2024, I want you to take a look. The US federal government will spend more money on interest payments than national defense. $892 billion in interest payments and $849 billion for defense. Next year, the government will spend more money on interest payments than on Medicare. So just think about it logically. As the government goes deeper into debt, a larger percentage of their budget will need to be spent on interest payments. You could just think of it like a person in credit card debt that keeps going deeper and deeper into debt. And the interest payments just get bigger and bigger. And then it gets to a point where they just can't keep up with the payments. And that's where our government is headed. And listen, I want to show you this. This is why I feel like we've passed the point of no return. And it's hopeless. Every year for the past 20 years, the federal government has been overspending. The most recent bar is for fiscal year 2023, and that's a $1.7 trillion deficit. For 2024, this year, it's going to go up to $1.9 trillion. In the past 70 years, the government has had a deficit in 61 of those years. So listen, I don't care if you're a Republican or a Democrat, here's the problem. George Bush created a record deficit, and he added a record amounts of national debt. Obama comes into office, he outdid Bush. Obama added a record amount of national debt to our country. Trump comes into office, he outdid Obama. Trump created record deficits and added a record amount of national debt. Biden is on track to outdo Trump. The Committee for a Responsible Federal Budget wrote this. Over the past 8 months of the fiscal year, we've spent more on interest payments on the debts than we have on national defense. We are already spending more on interest than we do on all federal spending for children, and we will see interest grow larger than Medicare spending this year. With debt growing out of control, we need leadership now more than ever. This should be domestic issue number one in the presidential campaign. It's time for Presidents Biden and Trump to put forward plans to fix our debt, and it's long past time for Congress to act. To me, I'll tell you this. I say that it doesn't matter who the next president is when it comes to this. Chances are that the federal government will overspend more than any other term and that we will add a record amount of new debts regardless. So the CBO is estimating that over the next 10 years, the government will run up another $22 trillion in debt, and our country will owe more than $50 trillion. To me, honestly, I believe that is nonsense. I think that we're going to be much more in debt than that figure. And you know what's crazy? The majority of the Trump tax cuts from 2017 will expire next year in 2025. If those are renewed, which honestly I'm betting a lot of them will be, that means that the deficits will be even larger than what the CBO is predicting, and it would be larger by trillions, and they admit this. And you know what? I know that some people are going to say that all of this debt and budgeting does not matter because the Federal Reserve can just print money. The truth is, yes, the government, in conjunction with the Federal Reserve, can just print trillions of dollars to keep up with the payments. However,
do you guys understand what will happen if they continue to print money? Inflation is going to go through the roof. Middle class wiped out, everything done. Let's continue to listen to what he's saying.
However, if they do that, that will spike inflation. And let me give you the truth in a nutshell. If there's money printing and inflation, it is not fair. So let's say that they print $10 trillion, okay? Do you really think that the $10 trillion will be evenly distributed among all Americans? So do you really think that it's going to be fair like that? And the answer is no. The elite class and connected people will receive the lion's share of the newly printed money. So it's like you get a $1,200 stimulus check and the CEO gets a $100 million PPP or business grant for their company, of which they get paid a $20 million bonus. You know, that's how it works. You and I, we get the crumbs. So let me tell you, inflation creates a wider division between the haves and the have-nots. Inflation makes wealth inequality worse.
So therefore, there'll be no more middle class. They'll just be rich and poor. So all this middle class stuff will be gone, wiped out.
And when that wealth inequality gets to tipping points, there will be civil unrest. So the federal government and Federal Reserve cannot just print their way out of the situation and expect no consequences. And another thing is that if they tried to print and inflate their way out of this problem, then the dollar would lose reserve currency status. And that would drive another massive surge of inflation. So I'm telling you that the situation is getting worse. The government got the projection wrong again. And their 10-year projection is going to be completely wrong. I think that a lot of people are realizing the truth and how this will inevitably conclude. So you and I will have to make preparations to best position ourselves. So please subscribe. Let's plan this out together. I thank you for the support, and I wish you a very nice day. Take care. So I want to give you a warning, right?
Okay. Wow. 34, let me see here. $34 trillion deficit. $1 trillion deficit that we're in right now. Just to understand. I mean, like, subscribe, share, click the podcast. Give me your comments, what you think. I mean, do you guys believe that we can get out of this, or do you guys think that this is it? I don't know. I'm like him. I don't believe whoever gets in the White House, I don't think it's going to make any different, they still gotta tax the people. It's not gonna. It's not gonna matter. It's not gonna matter. With that being said, tune in to Clips podcast Wednesday nights 8 o'clock and Fridays at this same time 7:30. See you. Peace.